And I'm also going to put this here. And yes, I have input. Can you talk to me, please?
Hello. I have my
Hey!
computer talking.
I have input and output. So let's give this a try. Um, Jessica, good morning, and thank you for your patience. We had a little bit of technical difficulties, and usually when I have technical difficulties, that means that I actually forgot about the interview or slept in, goofed off, that kind of. This was an actual technical difficulty, but you were very patient, so we'll go right into it. You are an author of speculative fiction, spec fic.
Yeah,
Um,
it's easier to say. I'm just like speculative blood fiction.
spec fiction. And you've got several genres. Like there's horror, alternate history, epic fantasy. Which one's your favorite?
Yeesh.
Choose your favorite child. This is Sophie's choice.
I
I'll shoot them
probably
both.
horror.
Horror?
I think so because I think it's. I mean, you can be funny with horror. You can be serious with horror. You can write. I love describing like people's heads getting split open and like blood running down stuff and like for some reason it's really fun. It's probably best if we don't go into those reasons.
You know what? We already have something for the highlight reel right there. You're a lady after my own heart. See, I'm writing a zombie apocalypse serial right now. I'm releasing it soon. It's called This Plague of Days, and I find that the violence is the hardest thing to write because I don't want it to seem repetitive. You know
Hmm.
how it can, like just like with erotica, it can be kind of mechanical and tab A slot B, and same thing with violence. Like I had this, there's this great moment I just wrote. I'm so proud of, because when somebody gets bit by a zombie and they're kind of hiding it and oh no, it's nothing, it's just a scratch, I'm fine, and they go into this, that's my wife, leave her alone, and I'm fine, I'll shake it off, I disinfected it, I've got the band-aid on it, all this stuff. And instead of that trope where it goes into this, well, should we shoot her or should we not, we'll wait till she
Yeah.
turns and all this stuff, instead somebody just gets rid of her, just bam.
A lot more refreshing. It's kind of like, the Indiana Jones thing with, the whip and I just pull out the gun and shoot the guy. Like,
Exactly.
something unexpected like that. So
So
much better.
I think to make that work, either you have to uh, defy the trope like I just described, or get really into the brains. Like, oh,
Hmm.
he yanked out his brain stem, and it's 'cause it's so rare that you see something new. Um, I I watched the first maybe half an hour of Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
Oh,
It was about all I could stand.
yeah.
But
I've heard not great things.
not no, not great. But they did have this moment that was interesting because they have this fight in the middle of a horse stampede, and even at the same time you're going, I can't go more than half an hour with this thing. I also thought, oh, I've never seen this before, and I don't know how do you find that you're searching for those moments to be different, or do horror fans just want the same thing over and over again?
Basically, I mean, when I'm writing the story, I definitely want the story itself to be different. That's pretty much the only thing I aim for. Otherwise, once I have that, I just write and write and write. And then if I get to editing and find that it's repetitive, or I've written stuff where I was like, I'm pretty sure I've used this turn of phrase before.
Right.
Stuff like that. I cover that in editing. If it feels repetitive, I just take it out or rewrite it. But I try not to like aim for too much stuff when I'm actually writing the story. I just prefer to let it tumble out and, see where it goes from there because usually most of it needs to be rewritten or revised in some way.
Well, I'm sure, but how how did you get? Uh, well, I'm kind of fascinated by the choices you've made because because you're into epic fantasy, alternate history, and horror, and you poetry, short stories, playwriting as well.
Mhm.
It's quite an expanse, and I've done like 3 books of nonfiction and a bunch of short stories and a couple of novels now. And one of the things I heard from somebody, I think it was a self-publishing podcast, was don't dabble in a little bit of everything.
Mhm.
Just own one thing, own horror or whatever.
Yeah, that's probably good advice.
I,
I just happen not to follow it.
well, this is the thing. I'd follow that advice if I could.
Yeah, I don't like writing the same thing over and over. I write a couple of like I wrote the epic fantasy series, and I'm writing a kind of quirky, edgy young adult series, but I get so many story ideas. I'm one of those people where it's like I want to go on to the next thing, the next thing. I always want to be pushing myself and breaking new boundaries. So I don't like to be pigeonholed into one area. I just want to play.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times I just write a story and then someone slaps a genre label on it afterwards.
Mm.
I just try to write a story that's mostly a mix of a lot of genres, because I think life is a mix of a lot of genres. And then someone's like, well, this is alternate history, this is steampunk, this is young adult or something like that, even though I just write the story and see where it goes.
So you don't think about marketing at all while you're writing?
Not really. I think that comes into play a little bit when I'm editing, but writing like a first draft or the initial idea, I don't really think about it too much. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have put the word finger bang in my young adult book. But I think that is marketable to some people. I think, oh my gosh, my cat is trying to be in the show.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, I just I want to tell the story I want to tell, and I'm not trying to alienate any readers or not be marketable, but I think I've kind of embraced this I don't give a shit about brands brand.
I like that.
I'm a genre jumper. I like to write what I like to write, and some people dig it, some people don't. But since I write in so many genres, there's at least going to be one book I've written that you can enjoy.
Well, I'm interested in I'm interested in finger banging.
Everyone?
Everyone, because I think usually when like when I used to work in traditional publishing, and one of the rules was with young adult, if you were 14, you wanted to read about 17-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were 17, you were reading adult books. That there wasn't new adult then, like there is now, that new genre, which it's kind of controversial exactly what that means. Like,
Sure.
with new adult, is that for somebody who's 20 to 25, or is that for people who is that books for people who don't like to read? I've heard both descriptions.
I think I don't know too much about new adult either, except I think it's more college age. I thought at first that maybe my Darla Decker series would fit into new adult, but Darla Decker is actually like 12, 11 in the first book. It's she's beginning middle school, so it's not that like finger banging happens in the book. It's just that's when she learns the word.
Right.
Because I mean, when you're in middle school, especially me, I grew up with 2 older brothers. You learn about a lot of stuff that really isn't appropriate for your age. You're not doing it, hopefully, but you learn about it. So in the book, that's when she learns about it. So I didn't think that was inappropriate for the age.
A lot of readers are very sensitive about reflecting reality. They don't want that. And I find it mostly, I think the fault is actually with the book buyer, because they're not looking at a sample and they're not looking at the description. And then they come back with a review that says, oh, there was too much swearing in this book. Like, I've written a couple of crime novels where there's a lot of swearing in there because I think that it gives it a more verisimilitude. Um,
Absolutely.
and at the same time, you're going to have people who go, well, I like Goodfellas except for the swearing. If they could just cut that out, I want the PG-13 version or something. I don't know, and I just can't do it.
Yeah.
On the other
I mean,
hand,
I got that. I got the same thing about my book Pins, which takes place in a strip club. They said it was too graphic. And I'm like, what did and like there were too many slang terms for vagina, and so like I'm like what did you think was gonna happen? You
that
think I'm
is
together and be
strange.
like, she got up on stage and shook her boobies.
Yeah,
Her no hole was in my face.
it
Like, that's not.
it's not like you said that this is going to happen at an Amish picnic.
You're right. I mean, I think that you should know what you're getting into. I mean, and you take it with a grain of salt. Take it for the fact that the writer probably knows what he or she is doing. That they did their research, hopefully.
Something that drives me crazy though is that there's so much, and I think this is more of a societal thing, but I think it shows up on Amazon too. This kind of microcosm of it is that people will object to sex, people will object to swearing, but violence is okay.
That was the thing. Yeah, someone had said something about too much nudity and swearing and that kind of stuff, but they said they stopped reading the book because of it. But where they had stopped before that, there was a really graphic murder of a girl with a pin setter in the bowling alley. Like, it's really graphic, and they didn't mention it at all. It's like, really? I mean, that part like kind of made me throw up in my mouth a little bit when I was writing it, but jiggling titties, look out.
And we've got more for the highlight reel. Thank you. Awesome.
Sorry, I should have asked if I was allowed to swear.
Oh no, this is the Cool People podcast, and oh yes, you may. In fact, I insist on it. Actually, it's funny. I think I'm holding back a bit because I'm writing a horror novel with that actually doesn't have hardly any swearing in it. That's a double negative. I hardly have any swearing in my new serial, and I don't think I'm pandering so much as I just felt like I was delving into different stuff and I wanted to appeal to a wider audience. What I'm saying is I'm a whore.
I totally get that. I mean, I don't have a lot of swearing in some of my other books. Like even horror ones. There's not too much. Just because I don't. If it doesn't feel natural, it doesn't feel natural.
Right.
You don't want it to feel like it's swearing for the sake of swearing. If it makes sense in the person's personality, or if it's written from the first person or something like that, it's all when it sounds natural and when it's appropriate. And I don't think that that's pouring yourself out if that's how your character talks. And
Yeah, I don't think it necessarily would add to it, but I think I would like to hear Mary Poppins drop some F bombs in that movie.
that would be nice.
Telling
I
those
feel
kids,
like
get the
she
fuck to
was a
bed.
real bitch. Poor guy.
Okay, so you've written plays and poetry, short stories, novels. What do you think is the bit of literature that you write that gives you the most respect?
Respect.
What's that?
Yeah. I probably novels. I guess my novels definitely get more attention than short stories. So I guess that's where I would derive most of my praise or acclaim, whatnot. Just because I think a lot of people, not a lot of of the readers out there are reading short story anthologies these days unless they're writers, I feel like. Because a lot of people aren't going to buy, one of my anthologies when they only know me. Like if it's like a friend, like a lifelong friend or something, they're going to buy my book and read that, but they're not going to buy an anthology that just has like a short story in it most of the time, so.
The reason I ask is, whoa, I get a little feedback there. The reason I ask is that I hear from horror writers, for instance, that they don't feel like their genre gets enough respect, and I hear the same thing from erotica writers.
I think everybody feels underappreciated if they're a writer.
Maybe that's what it is, because I think poets. I've heard people be kind of cruel and harsh about. Like I've written some poetry, but I'm self-conscious about even saying it.
I know, I call myself a poet, but then like when someone else calls me a poet, I'm like, oh no, not me.
Maybe that would be better, actually. I think I'd be more comfortable with somebody else saying I was a poet than me doing it. Although one of the things that I love about self-publishing, you're the first person I'm gonna bounce this idea off of. I have this kind of long prose poem, and instead of for my horror serial, instead of doing a table of contents that is just blood, death, whatever, whatever. I'm going to put that as the long prose poem as the table of contents, line by line. That would be horrible.
Each chapter is like
a
line.
So
that's awesome.
If you want to, sorry.
I dig that.
All right. I made sure that I was asking a poet if that would be a good idea before.
Oh, I'm not up.
Because the thing is, if I ask anybody else, they go, "You're doing what?"
Yeah, I don't know if I'm the best person to ask, but I think it's neat.
I think it's kind of cool for a couple of reasons. One is nobody else has done it that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
The second is I really like the poem, and where else am I going to place it? Another is who really cares about table of contents anyway?
Yeah.
The poem is kind of dark, so it fits the serial. There's nothing about bunny rabbits, unless there's zombie bunny rabbits. But it's just, I think the thing about self-publishing is I still have this streak of, you shouldn't do that. Oh, I really want to do that now. Oh, we've got a hang and you're frozen in a beautiful smile, and hopefully Skype will... There you are, you're back. Oh, no. Have I lost you, Jessica? Sometimes Skype hangs, so you'll pop back in a second. And we'll wait. Do, do, do. Hello?
Hello?
You're back! Yay! You know what I think I should do with that? Because I think we'll have two different recordings.
Okay.
Although I notice call recorders pop back on automatically. What I should do is just do that first bit as the teaser and then do the rest as the actual podcast. Because that was really good. Go. Now we can be boring. Yeah.
I can't see you though.
Oh, really?
No.
Well, no one wants that anyway, but let me check. Oh, I'm coming back, I think.
Oh, there you are.
I'm a vision in blue. So, another technical interruption. Never happened before. I think it's you.
It is me.
So let's talk about True Romance, because you said it was something that really inspired you. For people who aren't aware of True Romance, it's a Tony Scott directed film. Quentin Tarantino wrote it. So when you check it out on IMDb or whatever, it's one of those rare things where you look down and you have to search down before you see Quentin Tarantino's name at the bottom. But he made it awesome because he wrote it and everybody else was just there. So tell me why you love the world's most famous foot fetishist.
Well, yeah, I do. I am a big fan of Tarantino. But I saw True Romance when I was going through a Brad Pitt phase in high school. I was watching like every movie that Brad Pitt had ever been in, like up to like his TV movie Cutting Class. I watched everything, and I stumbled upon True Romance. Not, I didn't realize he was just played the stoner on the couch. So I'm waiting around the whole movie to see Brad Pitt. Never really saw him too much. But what was funny about it is I probably saw it around when I was like 12 or 13. And my parents, were in that phase where it's like, she can't watch this movie, she can't watch that movie, Interview with the Vampire, no, Train Spotting, no. But somehow True Romance slipped by them, I think because of the title. Like, they didn't bother to really question it. So I'm watching this movie with, sex and drugs and violence and all that. And I really it was the first time I had seen something like that was that big, like, smattering of genres.
Mm-hmm.
There's horrifying stuff in it. There's a love story in it. It's humorous. There's action. There's everything you could possibly want out of a movie in True Romance.
Including...
So I think as I grew up, that really influenced my writing style. When you read a lot of my stories, there usually is action, romance, horror, and pretty much anything you could get from True Romance is in most of my stories. There are some exceptions.
I think anybody should watch a movie that has Dennis Hopper and Christopher Walken in it.
Absolutely amazing cast in that movie. Yeah, that scene is probably one of the most brilliant scenes that you can ever see and then never repeat to anybody.
Yes, we won't spoil it.
Yeah.
After this, people will have to rush to see it.
Yeah.
Because, Christian Slater, Patricia Arquette, Brad Pitt. I'm thinking, Saul Rubinek is in there. Great Canadian actor for a nanosecond.
Bronson Pinchot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's great.
Bronson Pinchot. Are you too young to remember Perfect Strangers?
No, I loved Perfect Strangers.
Balky?
Yeah, America or Burst.
Yeah, he's... I'm not sure exactly what happened to Bronson Pinchot. I'm suspecting a rehab somewhere. I don't know whatever happened to him.
He probably was in True Romance and then just went straight to rehab.
Yeah.
It was funny because the first time I saw that movie, they had the suitcase filled with baggies of cocaine. Like, when I was the first, 20 minutes, I seriously thought those were socks. I was 12.
What's going on?
Killing people over some socks.